Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode in our Arkham Horror Archetype Guide. And we're going to be talking about the Survivor Archetype Dark Horse, otherwise known as my favorite archetype to play. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about. That's kind of the hope here. As always, we're going to talk about notable cards, some synergies, and then Travis has a deck at the end, which he will go over, a finished deck to kind of show what Dark Horse can do when they are done their campaign. So what is the goal of this archetype? This also could be called like the poor archetype if you don't have any resources in your pool. We refer to it as Dark Horse because it's built around one card, which we'll get to in the next slide, which is if you have no resources in your resource pool, you get +1 to each of your stats. So you're going to exchange the ability to have resources for having more stats, and then hopefully using those stats to have a better chance at succeeding your tests. I can't really think of another way to say it. Dark Horse has a little bit of a failsafe built in where you actually don't get, you can choose not to gain resources, or you can choose to gain resources when it comes to it. So yeah, just have no money and high stats and win. That is what you want to do with Dark Horse. There's a lot of cool...
In my opinion...
Sorry, Charles?
In my opinion, this is like the archetype that's closest to the survivor identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Where you're trading like long-term value for short-term stability and success, and then you're never going to be crushing the game, but you're going to be doing just good enough for the entire game.
Yeah, and ultimately that's how survivors like play. You're not here to do crazy broken things like Seekers or Rogues do, or be just like, you're just there to like, you can do everything good enough, and odds are you're going to pass probably in this archetype like 80 to 90% of your skill tests if you build well. So Dark Horse for this archetype, you probably want Dark Horse in your deck. So, as he says, level 1 per investigator. During your upkeep phase, you may choose not to gain resources, and while you have no resources in your resource pool, you get +1 to each of your stats. Nice and simple. Dark Horse is super important. You're going to want that in play as soon as possible. Your deck is probably good enough with how you build it that if you don't have it in your opening hand, you're not going to feel it, but you do want to get it out pretty soon, so you do want to mulligan for it pretty aggressively. When you're also looking at your resources, without Dark Horse, you're going to want to make sure that you stay below 5, optimally at 3, so that when you can get Dark Horse out, you can get to 0 resources ASAP to start feeling the benefits of it. There's a lot of cool tricks to do with this, which is all the cards that Travis has selected for the notable cards for these slides that showcase this really well. Fire Axe and the newly released Mariner's Compass are kind of like the same idea, where you can fight or investigate, and if you have no resources with the Fire Axe, you deal +1 damage. If you have no resources with the Mariner's Compass, you discover 1 additional clue at your location. And they both have a Lightning Bolt where you can spend a resource to get an additional attack or investigate for this skill test to a limit of 3 times. So this works really well if you are attacking an enemy with Fire Axe and you have 1 resource. You can spend that 1 resource to essentially get +3 to your fight skill, because you get 2 from Fire Axe and then 1 from Dark Horse because your resource pool is empty. And then when you hit with that sweet, juicy +3, you get to deal +1 damage for it as well. So when you're building this archetype, you want to look for the cards that you can spend your resources in a pinch in order to empty your Dark Horse when you need to. Comfortably, when I play Dark Horse, I usually do choose to gain my resource during the resource phase. Because in Survivor, you're not too concerned about the Mythos deck, where like with purple, you kind of just stop it. But with red, you can kind of just be like, I'll be fine. Like, it's one of those things that's scary, but like overall, there's a lot of tools in red to help you stop these problems. So something like, for example, Lucky, which gives you +2 and costs 1. The 1 resource you get from that will enable you to play your Lucky and potentially beat a test and get +3 once again from the Lucky because of Dark Horse. And if you don't get a test or you grab a monster, you get a free +2, which once again is +3 because of Dark Horse to gain the bonus to attack that enemy you just drew. So that is nice. The last card here on this is Plucky, which is, once again, a nice resource sink for both Book and Brain, which will help you not take damage during the Mythos phase, or alternatively, help you get clues and spend those resources to get your Dark Horse active. Do either of you guys want to add anything about these cards?
Plucky in particular is useful with the Dark Horse, and when you're saying that you take the resource, because the other Dark Horse in play, and you have your Plucky in play, and then you just you take your resource for turn, so it turns your Dark Horse off. And then that one resource, we'll say for you got the perfect set, you got your Fire Axe and or your Mariner's Compass in play as well. That one resource represents like either +2 Brain or +3 to one of your relevance, or sorry, +3 to your fight or +2 to your investigate, depending on what you're doing. Because when you draw the card for the turn, then if it's a Brain test, you can, or theoretically a Book test, I guess, you can just dump it into Lucky, and then you get +1 from Lucky, and you turn on the +1 from your Dark Horse. And then if you don't, you save the money to either boost your Fire Axe or Mariner's Compass, or to just play another card.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It's just more options, more versatility.
Yeah. The next page are just more of this similar effect. Dig Deep. The upgraded one is obviously much better than the experienced one's much better than the non-experienced one. Because it costs 0 to play, so when you draw it, you can just put it out assuming you're already in Dark Horse mode. When you enter Dark Horse mode, you generally want to accept that you were like done playing cards that cost more than one resource if you can avoid it, right? So that's why Dig Deep Level 2 and the experienced version of Scrapper, which is available in the Dunwich Legacy, are awesome because Dig Deep doesn't cost anything to play, and Scrapper, the experienced version, is just always there. Once again, nothing too exciting here. You just see that these are resource sinks to make it so that you are able to get into Dark Horse mode. And in the case of Dig Deep, as Travis said, use that to that resource you got during the Mythos phase to potentially help you beat a Mythos card, giving +2 for one resource, which is a nice exchange, actually.
Dig Deep is actually a particularly high value card here because you're probably playing your Fire Axe or your Mariner's Compass to do whatever your role in the team is, right? Mm-hmm. And then Dig Deep allows you to boost your 2 defensive stats, all on its own. Like plus Brain plus Foot is like actually kind of ridiculous for one of these cards.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Scrapper is like very good for the combat. Actually, it's a pretty solid XP sink for both of, regardless of what you're trying to do, because either you're the fighter and plus Foot is like especially if you don't have your Fire Axe, or you're the investigating side and maybe you need to run away from something.
Yeah.
It's just a great card to ensure you can deal with monsters in some capacity.
The last notable card for this archetype is Madame Lebranche. Where as a Lightning Bolt, if you have no cards in your hand, you can exhaust her to draw a card, and if you have no resources, you can exhaust her to gain 1 resource. This is especially spicy for things like Mariner's Compass, Fire Axe, and then also as well, of course, for those permanent stat boosters. But there's a nice trick to be able to get more attack or boost out of your Mariner's Compass with Madame Lebranche, and or in the case of maybe you need to play a Lucky, use her to help you get to that point. Once we get to the
Madame Lebranche is like a really good ally for this archetype. I know Justin doesn't play her too much, but you should. In addition, like she gives you free cards, she gives you free resources, and she gives you 2 and 2 soak for only 2 money. Like that's a great value.
Yeah, no, she is very good for this archetype. The problem for me still is that Pete Sylvester just is broken.
Yes, I know you have an incredible hard-on for him, but
he's broken. He's too strong for the red allies.
People at home, you should play Madame Lebranche in this archetype.
Oh yeah, no, she is very good. I'm not like, especially for this archetype, she benefits from it very, very well, and she helps you just give more boost for resources when you need them, or especially the cards, because you're probably going to be playing a skill heavy build once we get to these synergies here. Whoa, look at that! Skills.
Oh my god.
Skills, they don't cost money.
They don't cost anything to play, and that makes Dark Horse happy. In addition, it just means you're going to pass those tests, which is super sick.
Wow. Imagine if there was an investigator who was like red and liked to hit enemies with a fire axe, but would also had some kind of synergy with skills. That would be really good.
Could you imagine it?
Can you imagine them printing him twice?
But yeah, it's we have further episodes where we're going to be breaking down these archetypes. The survivor skills one will come up in the future. But look at the red skills, and there actually is a good chunk of them in this finished deck list that Travis made. That they just really synergize very strongly with this because, as Bryn said, they don't cost anything to play. You can just always commit them, even if you have no resources. It's great. There is an asset that also has a permanent called On Your Own, which you're not allowed to play allies in your deck, and as a reaction you can exhaust it to reduce the cost of a survivor event by 2. This is also really nice in Dark Horse because once again, now things cost 2 less, and if you have no resources, that means you can play things. It also kind of got my wheels turning because I'm like, a Silas build with Dark Horse and Eucatastrophe On Your Own seems pretty sweet, and seems like that could be a really fun time. On Your Own is pretty straightforward. Just play good events, and you'll benefit from it. That's our advice.
Yeah, it's basically if you want to play the events. And so there's like 2 versions of it. They both cost 3 experience. One's permanent and the other isn't. Mm-hmm. One of them requires that you don't have any assets in your deck that take up an ally slot. That's a permanent one. Whereas the other one, just you discard if you have an ally. Mm-hmm. And then other than that, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see including the non-permanent one as like just an alternate, like copies 3 and 4 of Madame Lebranche if you were really invested in her. But I think in general it's a bit better to just play the permanent version.
Yeah.
And then look at playing. Basically, you play if you want to play more events than skills.
Yeah. And you can also adapt and do it pretty quick. You could start with Madame Lebranche in your deck, and then when you buy, you can still buy What's Its Nuts, but then you have to the Madame Lebranches come out. I'm actually not sure on that if that actually works that way. And then you just were to replace her for free because she's now illegal in your deck.
I think that's how it works. If you change your deck building requirement, you don't have to pay to include the cards that make your deck legal again.
Like when you buy Versatile, you just get the other cards for free.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because so then if that is the case, and I'm sure someone in the comments will clarify with the actual rule for it, but if that is the case, then you could then bring the On Your Own in, take your Madame Lebranche out, and replace her with some events that you would want to play with your new build that you're exploring.
Yeah. Worth noting, On Your Own only works for red events.
Yes.
So don't try to get cheeky with expensive yellow events or something. Don't do that.
Because then you're cheap.
The last synergy notable with Dark Horse are off-class skill syncs, so it's pretty straightforward as well. Like the skill syncs that you saw us just talk about, they're good at other ones too. So if you can play whatever the blue one or the yellow one or the purple one or the green one's called, take advantage of it if you're going with this archetype. Because then maybe you have, for example, if you can line it up so that you have a skill sync in resources for each stat you have, you're pretty much prepared for a +2 at any moment if you have a resource in your pool. That seems pretty nice.
You could do something neat with build a Jenny deck that plays Dark Horses and then Mariner's Compasses, and then your skill thing, and then your money, because you get 2 money a turn, and then you have a Streetwise that you buy because that costs 2 money to activate, and then just crush clue locations.
Yeah.
With your 4s across the board.
That would be pretty sick.
There's lots of neat options for the off-color guys too, because Dark Horse, most of the cards in this archetype don't cost any experience, so you can play them in any deck that can play red cards.
Yeah, with actually one of the best investigators I have found success with in Dark Horse is Preston Fairmont. It's not the fact that like he only goes to 2 in all of his stats, which also isn't great, but he gets 4 free money a turn to use for his skill sinks, which is pretty exciting. Preston with a fire axe is actually a deadly combination.
Yep.
All right, Travis, we got a Rita Young Dark Horse deck. Why don't you talk me through what you did to let everyone know how this one goes?
It's like a super boring deck.
As Survivor decks more normally are.
You got our Fire Axes and our Meat Cleavers. Fire Axe. We'll look at the Dark Horse package first, I guess. We got our Dark Horses, we got our Scrapper for plus punch, and our plus foot, because Rita cares about that. It's a nice combination. Bam LeBranche, as I talked about, is good. Fire Axe to kill things, because this is definitely a fighter build. We got a big pile of skills here. Brute Force, Overpower, really, and the Unexpected Courage is kind of like really just help you crush those, leverage that 3 punch into something more usable. Guts keeps you protected. Take Heart is some nice economy. Sharp Vision will let you pick up some clues in a pinch. Resourceful, of course, is just, it's like a really good card and should be in all of your red decks, actually.
Yeah.
Scrounge for supplies just lets you, maybe your Dark Horse gets discarded or your Fire Axe gets discarded by something dumb, like a Frozen Fear. Like, yeah, you just get it back, no problem. We got level 3 Luckies because they don't cost you any money, which is like pretty sick when you don't have any money. Alter Fate is just like a really, like, I'll be honest, this card is like here 90 or 80% of the reason the card's here is to buff up the experience in this deck, to spend it on something. Because like your Dark Horse deck is going to be filled out by like scenario 3.
Yes, yeah. It's pretty much ready to go very early on.
Alter Fate is just like really nice in a lot of scenarios actually. It varies from campaign to campaign, but like it's insane in the Circle Undone. And it's pretty solid in a campaign that has like Frozen Fear or whatever in it. So, what else is here? Oh yeah, Meat Cleaver is just an alternative to the Fire Axe in case you don't find it. It's pretty easy to turn on for the extra damage or for the extra punch because Rita only has 5 brain.
Yeah.
And then we got some level 2 newspapers again, just like help with those clues on the off chance. Like you flip over a new agenda and you got your newspaper in play and you commit your Sharp Vision. And you crush the test and get like 1 billion clues.
Yeah, I think you'd get 4 clues from that.
Yeah, like that's like 2 people's worth of clues almost. That's
pretty
insane.
sick.
It's just this is nothing fancy. It's pretty basic.
It's what a Survivor deck is, right? Like you're just able to do everything in small bursts of good, but like nothing like super crazy broken. And there's not much to say about it really.
Yeah, like you aren't gunning down any Ancient Ones with this deck, but you should be able to handle pretty well any enemy that the deck throws at you.
It's especially good with Rita and Dark Young. Not Dark Young. Rita Young and Dark Horse. Is that with Dark Horse, her foot is 6, which means like, for example, you get a basic cultist and you can just evade it up 5. Like that's like the game's not going to beat you unless you draw the autofail there. And like that's just a nice comfort to have with that because you get that 1 damage from her ability once per turn. And being able to have like 1 damage that you can test at 6 a turn with Dark Horse in play is actually really nice.
It's also very relevant for some of the chunkier enemies or like mini bosses, even like the Ancient Ones, I guess, where you can just spend action evading them and still get a damage in, and then chop them twice with your Fire Axe with no risk.
Yeah, because a lot of those big boys also have Retaliate, right? Like that's nice. Sick. Well, that is
almost
the Dark Horse.
Play Rita.
Sorry?
I said almost makes me want to play Rita.
Yeah, I do want to. I also am getting this weird feeling like you should play Rita again, and I'm like, all right, devil on my shoulder, I will. But yeah, you can check the description for the deck list. Like and subscribe for more Archetype guides. What do you want to see next? And we're going to be back up to Guardians next week, and then we're going to go with our new weird order because I did Sealing before the Succeed by X. So we got Guardians, Seeker, Mystic, Rogue, and then Survivor. Let us know what you want to see. We have a bunch still that we need to do. Odds are, if you request it, Travis has made a list for it, so it will come up. It'll just let me know which ones to push further up in the order. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, GG's.